We all know the famous Warren Buffett quote, "Be greedy when others are fearful."
If you have a temperament that when others are fearful, you're going to get scared yourself. You are not going to make a lot of money in securities over time in all probability.
However, you must understand the context behind this advice. Mr. Buffett is stating that you should be looking to buy dips on strong stocks. So if you have a ticker chart like the one behind my head here, you may be interested in buying a dip like this, in buying a dip like this, in buying either one of these dips here. However, you should then not be interested in buying these dips. So how, as active traders, do we quantify this difference? Well, luckily for you, I have already created a custom study that provides you with indicators on dips when the stock is strong and then ceases to provide those indicators when the stock is weak. And in this video, we are going to build this study together step by step so that you fully understand it and you can have it plotting on your own charts, as well as build a scanner and a custom watch list column so that you can find stocks that are matching this setup. We're going to do all this for free. All I ask in return, hit like, hit subscribe if you're new around here, and let's go. So in our ThinkorSwim application, under the charts tab, I'm going to click on studies here in the top right, edit studies, and then we are going to click on create. And this is where we can then begin to use ThinkScript, which is ThinkorSwim's native coding language, to create our own custom studies. First, let's go ahead and give our study a name. I'm going to go ahead and name mine Price Action Momo, and that can be a good segue into our conversation about the definitions of this indicator. Because whenever you're building out a study, whenever you're building a trade system, whenever you're building a trade scanner, you have to objectify your idea. So our basic idea here is that we want to buy dips on strong stocks, right? So you have to give real values to that, because just saying that doesn't mean anything. You can't build a study around that statement. You can't build a trade system around that statement until you have truly defined what it means for a stock to both be currently weak, but on the larger trend, strong. So let's go ahead and give some objective definitions for those two statements, which, if both true, will return our plotted arrow. So for currently weak, we are going to do the current bar's low is lower than the lowest low over the last X number of bars. So for example, on this dip here, this bar's low is lower than any low from the previous 15 bars. If that's true, then the stock is currently weak. That's how we are going to objectively define, once again, currently weak. Now, for larger macro trend, we are going to use an out-of-the-box study. We are going to use a simple moving average. That is my favorite way to, once again, give an objective definition to trend. So lowest low under the lowest low of X number of bars, and the current bar is closing above a simple moving average. So let's go ahead and handle our simple moving average first, as we can create that plot and give ourselves a visual for the foundation to build off of. So I'm going to come into studies, I'm going to go to edit studies, and instead of hopping back into our price action Momo that we just created, first, let me just add the simple moving average study itself. And for this definition of macro strength, I want to use the 200 length simple moving average. If I turn this on, great. We have a 200 simple length moving average. Of course, we don't want to have this indicator turned on separately. We will build this plot inside of our own custom indicator, but I want to talk about first utilizing studies that already exist within ThinkorSwim. Simple moving average is a pre-existing study. This equation, this math already is here inside of ThinkorSwim. We don't have to do this math again in our custom study, which is really nice. And that's true for the entire list of out-of-the-box studies in ThinkorSwim. Anything you can turn onto your chart, you can call into a custom ThinkScript code. Now, the name of the function that we're going to call in is whatever ThinkorSwim calls it in this list. So in this instance, it's going to be simple moving AVG. That's the function that when we call into our custom study, as you'll see in just a second, will return us a simple moving average. Next, every study function accepts a list of parameters. These are the values that you can change within the equation to change the appearance of the study. Of course, I just changed the length from its default 9 to 200. It's also very important to know how you can access this list of parameters because, once again, as we hop into our custom study, you're going to need to update this length parameter to be 200 so that we aren't just getting the default 9 length moving average. So let's go ahead and turn off this simple moving average and let's hop back into our price action Momo indicator, hop back into the little scroll here, and let's start to work on plotting this simple moving average. So when you create a new study within ThinkorSwim, it comes with this little sample line of code with a pre-declared variable named data, just simply initialized with the value closed. Of course, this is declared with the keyword plot, which means whatever value we set here will, of course, be plotted on the chart. Great for us. We want to plot the 200 length simple moving average. So I'm going to change the name of the variable to MA. This, of course, can be set to whatever you want, whatever you would like to name your variables. That name is simply used to call this information later in the code. And we are going to look at, remember, the simple moving AVG function. That's the study we want to call. In order to let the machine know that we are referencing a study, we need to open and close parentheses. That's how the machine knows that this is a function and to take the default parameters of this function. Remember, when you turn on a simple moving average, it automatically plots a 9 length simple moving average based on the closing price, etc., other parameters. But we want to change that length parameter to 200. So within our parentheses here, I'm going to type length and set this parameter equal to 200. Now, as I hit apply, okay, and apply this to the chart itself, you will once again see the 200 length simple moving average plotted on the chart, but this time from within our own custom ThinkScript study. Pretty cool, huh? So that gives us our building block for one of our conditions in which we want the closing price to be greater than this 200 simple moving average, which we have now set equal to our variable named MA. So let's go ahead now and define our second reason for why we want those arrows plotted, and that is the current bar low being lower than the lowest low over some number of bars back. So we're going to go ahead and come down. We're going to declare another variable. This one's also going to be plot because this is now where we're going to tell the machine when it should plot the actual arrows on the chart. We're going to go ahead and name this one whatever. I'm just going to name it BySig for buy signal, and I'm going to set this variable equal to the current bar low is less than, and here we're going to use an action function. I'm going to use the action function lowest, which accepts two parameters, one of data and one of length. So we want to see the lowest low point, and for the rip right now, let's just go with over the last 15 bars. So this will return true if the current bar low is lower than the lowest low in the last 15 bars. Now, let's go ahead and instead of having to write a whole nother block of code here, I'm just going to combine my two references here so that we can do it all in this one line of code. To do so, I'm going to use the conditional formatting statement of and, meaning this variable will only return true if this statement returns true and if the next statement I write returns true. And that statement, of course, will be close is greater than MA. end your line of code with a semicolon, as you do all your lines of code. Now, the buy signal variable will be true, once again, current bar low, lower than the lowest low out of the last 15 bars, and current bar close is greater than moving average. That's all well and good, and this code is currently set up correctly and throwing no errors, but if I hit apply, you will notice in the background here, nothing's going to happen because we haven't told the machine what to plot yet. We've basically just defined a variable and said, hey, if these statements are true, then plot something. Okay, well, what should it plot? We are once again going to need to use another action function called setPaintingStrategy, which accepts a parameter of painting strategy where we will tell it that it should plot arrows pointing up. Now, instead of just typing in the function of setPaintingStrategy here, this function is acting on something. It is acting on the value provided by this buy_sig variable. It will only run as a function if it knows what value it should be plotting against. Does that make any sense? I can't just say setPaintingStrategy and tell it to paint an arrow up and then have it run. The machine needs to have that link between, hey, if the buy signal is true, then set this painting strategy. So in order to do that, we are going to utilize something called dot notation. And while I'm talking through all this technical stuff, I'm doing that because there's two subsets of people that watch my videos. There's one, you all that just want the indicator and are just copying this code so you can have it showing on your charts. And I love you all. Welcome. Enjoy the code. If all this technical gobbledygook is going over your head, who cares? Copy what I type down. You'll have the indicator. Enjoy. But there are also people watching that want to learn how to code in ThinkScript, right? Want to learn how to create these strategies. So I talk through a little bit, at least, of the technicals. I try not to get too deep. I could make every video 2 hours long if I wanted to, but I try to talk through some of the technicals for them. So anyway, let's utilize dot notation. I'm going to type in buy_sig dot setPaintingStrategy. Once again, now the setPaintingStrategy function knows that it is acting upon the buy_sig variable. You're still getting an error here because action functions, unlike your study functions, typically don't come with default parameters. You have to tell it the parameter. It's not going to automatically set some painting strategy by default. So once again, the painting strategy parameter we're going to use is arrow up. But arrow up only exists within the painting strategy data type. So we once again must use dot notation. We must go painting strategy dot arrow underscore up. This now, the machine knows, hey, I'm going to utilize the arrow up value, but I must search the painting strategy data type in order to find that value. If I were to not have that painting strategy data type, you'd get an error because ThinkorSwim natively doesn't have the arrow up value stored. It must know to look in this data type. Now, this is going to look good. It's going to not throw any errors. But as I hit apply, you will once again notice there's nothing being plotted on this chart. This isn't actually the true painting strategy that we need to utilize. Just the first one I wanted to talk over because this is the lowest level of understanding. Hey, if true, then paint the up arrow, right? But we're actually going to use a Boolean underscore arrow underscore up. This now only accepts values of true and false. So now, since we have our buy_sig variable as this true statement, hey, you're either going to plot if this is true, you're not if it's false, we need to use a Boolean painting strategy because it needs to understand that it is accepting that true or false. Now, as I hit apply and we back out, we should begin to get, wait, pause the cuss words that were about to start flying. If anybody out there has ever coded before or like worked on a car, you know how it is. You think something should work and it doesn't. I made a mistake here. I forgot, of course, we are currently in our buy_sig variable comparing the lowest low to the current bar's low. of course the current bar's low is never going to be lower than itself, right? So this statement can never be true. What we need to do with this statement is we need to offset the value of the lowest low over the last 15 bars by 1. This means that it will be comparing the current value to the value from a bar ago rather than comparing to itself, which once again could never be true. The current bar low could never be lower than the lowest low if it's including itself, right? So you do offsets on functions by using these brackets, and whatever number is within the bracket is how far back you're offset. So as we set that to 1, which, hey, yay yippee, we are now getting our arrows on our charts where we expect. Just one more thing quickly. I personally don't like the default color of this sort of light red that ThinkorSwim goes with on your second plot. So we're going to come back in. We're going to do another look and feel function, this one called assign value color. Once again, we must utilize dot notation so that this function understands it is acting upon whatever value is provided by the buy signal, in this case, true or false, and it needs to understand, once again, if true, it's going to paint this arrow up because we're using a Boolean arrow up. Now we need to change the color, of course, of the arrow. I want my arrows to be white. Once again, I cannot just type in white as the parameter here. ThinkorSwim does not natively have color values stored. You must reference the data type they are stored in, which is color. So I'm going to do color.white. And as I hit apply, you now see the arrows they just stand out a little bit better, right? So back within our edit studies modal, remember when we added that simple moving average to our chart as our first sort of example? And I clicked on the settings cog here, and I talked you all through how this is how you change your parameters. If I wanted to change this to a 200 SMA, I could do it directly from this input list. Well, wouldn't it be nice if we could have something similar in our own code so that the front end user or yourself can make easy adjustments to, say, the moving average length and the number of bars back we want to compare against? Well, luckily for us and the magic of ThinkScript, we can do that. I'm going to give myself a couple of lines at the top of my code, and I'm going to declare 2 variables, both now with the keywords of input rather than plot. We don't want these variables to be shown on the chart. Instead, we want these variables to be shown as inputs on the study itself, which I'll show you in just a second. The first one, I'm going to go ahead and name MA length, and I'm going to initialize it with a value of 200. Then, rather than hard coding the value into my parameter down here, I'm going to call in that now existing MA length variable, which we have entered up here. And next, let's go ahead and let's do our low length as a separate variable. I will initialize it with the value of 15. And once again, rather than hard coding in our value of bars back, we would like to compare the lowest low of. Let's call in now the variable low length. So right now, nothing has effectively changed within the code. It's still going to perform all the same actions, right? As I hit apply, you'll notice none of the plots change. It all looks the same. But, get rid of the simple moving average. But now if I come into the settings on my custom study, you now see I have 2 inputs of MA length and of low length. Now, if I change the MA length to 50, let's say, and I hit apply, you notice all of a sudden we are now plotting the 50 SMA, and all of our buy signal plots have changed according to now the calculations based off of, hey, are we closing below the lowest low of the last 15? And are we closing above the 50 now simple moving average? I just want to point out that when you do that, when you make changes on an input here, it does not change the source code. So as long as you now have this indicator on your chart and you run it against any symbol on any time frame, right, it will continue to run as the 50 simple moving average. But if I were to remove it and re-add it back, it would then go back to its 200 simple moving average because once again, the source code itself doesn't change. That just sort of changes your local save on the currently running study, right? So are we good? You all with me? Up until now, we have just step by step built out this indicator that aligns with Mr. Buffett's strategy of being greedy when others are fearful on strong stocks only, though, so we don't get caught catching the falling knife. Now, let's go ahead and build a scanner so that we can see when stocks are meeting these criteria. Because you can have the best strategy in the world and you still won't make any money if you don't know how to find the stocks aligning with that strategy, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy our code here other than our look and feel codes, because in the scanner, I'm not actually going to be plotting arrows. I just need the information. So other than our last two look and feel functions here, I'm going to hit Control C and then hop over into the scan tab where you will notice I have already a couple of stock filters already set up. This is just how I keep out a lot of the riffraff. These are stock filters I run on almost every single one of my scanners. The current price must be greater than 50 cents. The market cap must be existing. I don't want any NA market cap stocks showing up in my scan results, and the daily volume must be over 50,000. These filters are added from the Add Filter button. Stock, you get this large drop down which you can set min and max values on. Go ahead and set up your stock filters however you would like to filter down to just the types of stocks you would like to trade. But to get to the meat and bones of our scanner, we're going to go back to the Add Filter. This time we are going to add a study scanner, and we're going to click on this little pencil here and hop on into our ThinkScript editor, and this is where we're going to paste in our study code. Now, in the context of scanners, the only information that will be utilized to filter the stocks that appear on your scanner is information stored within variables that are declared with the keyword plot. So for our scanner here, this study filter, the only information that I want to be used is this buy sig variable. I only want stocks to show up, of course, that the current low is below the lowest low of the last 15 and the close is above the 200 simple moving average. So instead of using the keyword plot on our MA, I'm going to change it to the keyword DEF. This is just the third way that you can declare variables within ThinkorSwim. We already talked about input and plot, and DEF is the easiest one. It just really does nothing external with this information. This information is now only used for local calls, so it can really only be called inside of this local code, and that's it. It won't be used as inputs to be changed on the front end in the study, and it won't be plotted and used in the scanner at all. So, making that quick change, hitting OK, and hitting scan, we should now be only returned stocks, which are also only showing us the arrows on our study that we just built. So sorting top down by volume, which is how I do most of my scan sorting. Our first stock is PFE and the second is CDE. So clicking into PFE, you do see we're of course getting the buy arrow from the study that we just created. Once again, meaning the current bar's low is lowest than the lowest point out of the last 15 bars, and we are closing above the 200 simple moving average. If I click over to CDE, which was the second stock on our scan results, also getting that signal appearing on the current bar. So it seems that our scan is working correctly. Next, let's create a custom watch list column so that while you are running any of your scans, you will be able to see if this buy condition is true. So that you don't only have to be scanning for these stocks, you can see if this is true on, once again, any of your scans. I'm going to come in and I'm going to copy the code we just utilized for this scan. Now to add custom columns to your ThinkorSwim scans, you're going to click on this little cog here on the scanner headers, click on customize, and what you're going to do you're going to look up a column named custom in this list of available items. I'm a crazy person. I've already used every single one of my columns, so I'm just going to have to take over one that already exists. You'll notice these scrolls here don't have locks on them. That means that they are customizable. So if you click on the scroll itself, go to the ThinkScript editor, we're going to, of course, paste in our code from our scanner itself. Now, instead here, though, I am going to add in a look and feel function. We're going to add in the function assign background color. I want the background color, so I want this cell essentially to be colored green when this buy signal is returning true, and I don't want it to be colored at all if it's not returning true. This means we're going to have to use a conditional formatting statement of if. And while that sounds confusing because it's a few big words thrown in there, it's really simple. If, then, else. If buy sig, meaning if this condition is true, then color.green, else color.current, which simply means don't do anything, just leave the color at what it is currently formatted to do. So if I hit apply on this and OK, then of course, if we double click on this FPL column as the one I took over to add it to our list of columns, if I hit OK, you should notice, because we are running this scanner, that this is currently true on every single one of these stocks, right? But instead, if I were to load in one of my other scanners, actually first, let me save this scan query. I'm going to save this as price action Momo scanner. Let me save this one first. Now, if I go and open up my, let's say my PPS sell signal scanner, if I can find it, if I open my PPS sell signal scanner, you can see now there are a couple of stocks from this scanner which are aligning with the study we've built in today's video. The first being DHI. If I go ahead and open that, you'll see, yep, currently getting the buy signal from the study we built today. The next one on the list being LEN. And of course, since we've built this custom column, we can now use this to sort the stocks too. Hey, show me the stocks at the top of the list where this is true, right? But the next one we're going to look at is LEN. We should once again see, yep, we are getting that Boolean up arrow plotted. As I mentioned earlier, two different types of people watching my videos. Those that just want to copy all of my custom codes and those that are trying to learn to code themselves. Don't worry, my website, daytradingstrategies.net, helps out both of these people. Because from my website, you're going to get access to all of my published strategies, scanners, including custom watch list columns, studies, etc. And they all come with these share links, which can easily be copied. And then back within ThinkorSwim, under setup, open shared item, paste in that link, preview, import, okay. Just that easily, you can download and import all of my custom codes into your ThinkorSwim platform. Then you also, of course, will have access to the source code themselves. Once you import them, you can click on the scroll and see the source code itself. So whether you just want to access my strategies or you would like to get a look at my backend code, as that is the best way to learn code, is to look at how someone is doing it, my website can help you out either way. So the question you have to ask yourself is, do you think getting access to over 60 different custom codes will help you make just an extra $25 a month? I'm not legally allowed to answer that question for you, but if your answer is yes, then of course my website is positive ROI, as the codes will pay for themselves and anything else they help you with will just be profit on top. And of course, your subscription can be canceled at any time with just 3 clicks under the My Account tab. So daytradingstrategies.net, link in the description down below. Go sign up today to get access to continuously added and updated codes to help you out in your trading journey.